Hello everyone, we are from Group 4 and we are going to explain about the sound patterns material from Atchison's linguistics book by Jane Atchison.
Sound patterns. Sound patterns explains how linguists represent the flow of speech and outlines the main symbols used for the sounds of English. It also discusses ways of describing stress and rhythm. Linguistics is concerned primarily with the spoken word, so a priority task for anyone describing sounds is to decide how to represent the flow of speech. When we talk about sound patterns, there are 7 contents about it, such as sorting out the basic sounds, the phonemes of English, allophones, sound combinations, shared properties of phonemes, non-segmental phonemes, and metrical phonology. Sorting out the basic sounds. Sorting out the basic sounds will be focused on the accurate transcription of sounds, dealing at first with single word. As time goes by, and as the sounds of the language under investigation become familiar, the linguist will transcribe more and more accurately. It will slowly become apparent that the variety of strange sounds is not infinite. Instead, the informant is stringing the changes on a small number of basic sounds or phonemes, each of which may have several variant forms. Every language has a few dozen basic sound units known as phonemes. These distinguish words from one another. A phoneme is the smallest segment of sound which can distinguish two words. For example, the words pit and beat. These words differ only in their initial sound. Pit begins with P and beat begins with B. This is the smallest amount by which these two words could differ and still remain distinct forms. For another example, the words pet and pit. These differ only in the vowel. Once again, this is the smallest amount by which these two words could differ. Pairs of words such as pit and beat, pit and pet, which differ by only one phoneme, are known as minimal pairs. And a way to identify the phonemes of any language is to look for minimal pairs. And the symbols for phonemes are normally put into slanted brackets. The phonemes of English. The phonemes of one widely spoken variety of British English. This is the accent sometimes known as received pronunciation. It is only one of the many accents found in Great Britain, but perhaps the most widespread. As noted above, there are 44 phonemes according to one common analysis. They can be divided into two types, consonants and vowels.
Now we're moving into allophone. Allophones are variants of phoneme or basic sounds. Anyone who learns to speak a language needs to be aware of this variation. The amount of variation differs from phoneme to phoneme. For example, the very slight alteration in the pronunciation of English S are mostly imperceptible and unimportant, whereas the variant of English L are most noticeable even to the untrained ear. And given the notes that sometimes the variation is random, no two can ever be exactly the same, no matter how hard a speaker tries to replicate one. This is what we call free variation. At the other times, the variation is predictable. For example, take the English phoneme P. When it occurs at the beginning of a word, it is pronounced with aspiration, a puff of breath. When the word of pot and peel are pronounced, after put S on the front of O, this puff of breath disappears when words of spot and spill are pronounced. In short, the aspirated variant P and the unaspirated one P are both allophones of phoneme P, and each occur in a different and predictable set of environments. And take a note, this is complementary distribution, since one set of environments complements the other. Let's jump up to the sound combination. In addition to identifying and analyzing the phoneme of a linguist must also work out ways in which the phoneme may be combined. Every language has a certain permitted sequence of sounds, and other which are not allowed. For example, a word which begins with the three consonant type phoneme always obey three strict rules. 1. The first phoneme must be S. 2. The second phoneme must be P or T or K. 3. The third phoneme must be L or R or W or G. The result is that all words beginning with three consonants are words such as spring, string, or splendid. And we never find words such as bling, still, or tended. That will be bad combination.
Shared properties of phonemes. Phonemes have been regarded as separate, independent units, each one having its own allophones. It would be a mistake to regard the phonemes of English as being totally separate from one another, just as it will be a mistake to regard the members of a human family as being totally different, even though each individual in a family is a distinct person in their own right. So here is a chart which shows the properties possessed by each phoneme. A plus sign indicates the presence of a certain property, and a minus sign signifies its absence. This type of analysis makes the rules of any language much simpler to express. Suppose we had a language which dropped the phonemes M, N, and N with a little tail at the end of a word under circumstances. It is simpler and clearer to write a rule which states that nasals are dropped at the end of a word than it is to name each phoneme separately.
Non-segmental phonemes. English phonemes are chunks or segments of sound, such as B or T or E. These are known as segmental phonemes. However, a number of languages have not only segmental phonemes, but not segmental phonemes also. For example, in North Mandarin Chinese, there are numerous words which are distinguished by differences in the rise and fall of tone, as in the following minimal pairs. These minimal pairs have different pronunciation and meaning. Tone languages have one advantageous byproduct. The tones and rhythm of speech can be emitted by instruments other than the human voice. This is the basis of African talking drums, or more accurately, talking gongs, in which the drum beats reproduce the tones and rhythms of the language. However, because the drums are unable to reproduce the segmental phonemes, their messages work in a slightly different way from normal language. A single message may take several minutes to convey, even though it would have taken only a few seconds to give the information verbally. This is because whole phrases are utilized where ordinarily language use single words. Such as procedure is necessary in order to avoid confusion. For example, among the locale of the Upper Congo, the word for dog is moi, a single syllable spoken with a low tone. But because there are dozens of other single syllable words spoken with a low tone, The drum equivalent for dog uses a whole phrase, meaning literally giant dog, little one that barks. The tone of this phrase is unlike that of any other drum phrase, and serves to distinguish the meaning dog in the message. Metrical phonology. Metrical phonology is a branch of phonology. In particular, each word and group of words has its own rhythm and interplay of stressed and unstressed syllables called metrical phonology. Metrical pattern of stressed and unstressed syllable. Stars metrical pattern. In the words, the most stressed syllables have the most stars, and the least stressed the smallest number of stars. The actual quantity of stress given to a syllable does not matter very much. The important point is the relative amount given to each. In happiness, for example, it is essential to give the greatest amount of stress to have and the least to P. But rhythms is not merely a sequence of different stress levels. It appears to have an internal structure, which can be represented on a tree diagram, so-called because it resembles an upside-down tree. This shows the overall structure of the rhythm better than a grid of stars. It shows how strong and weak syllables alternate, and indicates that each syllable can be regarded as a subportion of a larger unit, sometimes called a foot. In the words, have been split into a strong portion, S, and a weak portion, W, which in some cases is further subdivided. The word rhythms outlined above are not static, in that they may change as words come into contact with one another. The words central and hitting each sound rather similar when pronounced alone, but when spoken together as the phrase central hitting, the rhythm alters, so that the strongest stress goes onto hitting. That's all for our explanation.